Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar. My name is Siddharth, and I work as a product specialist for the IT security solutions at Manage Engine, and it is truly my pleasure to have you all here. Um, I just want to make sure before we get started with the webinar, if all of you can hear my voice clearly, and also you have no difficulty in viewing my chat screen. That is, you should be able to see my presentation on your screen. So I'm just going to wait for maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And in case you have any difficulties, you can let us know on the live chat and we'll try to sort them out. So let's just pause for a minute before we get started. Right, so I hope you have absolutely no difficulties. It looks like everything is up and running fine. So I just want to thank you all for taking time off from your busy schedules to tune in for our webinar today. And don't worry, I usually keep my presentations short and to the point. And you can also ask us questions on the live chat. I think some of you have already started interacting with us on the live chat. So you can ask any queries you have on the live chat, and we've got a team of product experts right here to answer your queries. So my objective in today's webinar is to shed some light on the importance of network security. I want to talk about auditing and how real-time alerting with a SIM tool, we'll get into the details in a few slides. So I want to talk about how real-time alerting can help you achieve this, right? Basically, in short, we're going to look at how network auditing and alerting can help you tighten your network security. Now, some of you, I think we've got a pretty wide audience here today. We've got people from different levels. We've got security administrators. We've got administrators who are probably getting into security. But the point that I want to reiterate here is that security skill is something that is a must for an administrator today. Because maybe in your current role, you aren't doing that much from a security point of view, or maybe you are only doing security. We've got a pretty diverse audience here today for the presentation. But my point is that in the next 2 or 3 years, if you have security skill, if you become a security professional, the value for your company is going to be immense. Because as you all hear today so much, you hear about so many cyber attacks, you hear about huge companies getting breached, and there are so many repercussions, right, from financial penalties to a loss of trust with customers, that companies want to spend more in security. And there's proof for this, because if you look at any statistic, it will show you that the spending budget on IT security all over the world, even in India and the Middle East, you can see a huge exponential growth in terms of the IT security spending. So this means that companies are realizing that the key for any IT infrastructure is security, because without security, everything else falls apart, right? So just as how much, say, your help desk, your IT help desk is maybe the core of your internal IT, security is going to become the most important thing. It's already becoming very important. And in the next 2 to 3 years, you will see that you will have to adapt or change your role to accommodate more security requirements, right? So what I wanted to point out before starting the webinar was that it's great to see a good response for today's topic, because clearly all of you understand that security is really important, and cultivating the security skill and knowledge about different threats is something that is a must if you want to remain more relevant in the future. So before we get started and look into more details about auditing and alerting, let us first look at this slide on taking stock of your security posture. right? I usually like to start my presentations with this slide because this is a good starting point to see where your enterprise stands for security. So what I want to focus on is I'm going to ask a few questions and you need to evaluate where you stand on each of these questions, right? So again, like I said, you maybe some of you are already CIOs or security professionals. Some of you are administrators who are getting into more security related roles. But the first and foremost thing is to be aware of the latest trends in the cyber attacks, right? Because this is something, the threat landscape is something that keeps changing so fast, so rapidly, that what was a threat yesterday might have evolved into something much bigger in a week or two from now. And you need to be aware as to exactly what is going on across the globe in terms of cyber threats. Maybe some of you might have heard about the Equifax data breach in the US that happened last month. And you might have heard a few months back, we had the big WannaCry ransomware and several other ransomware attacks that came after that. So you need to be aware of exactly what is going on in the global cyber, the threat landscape to truly know what are the threats that could affect your enterprise. And the next thing, I think we're just experiencing a bit of an audio issue. Let me just recheck on that. I hope my voice is audible now. Sorry about that. I think we had a bit of a network connectivity issue, but I hope that you can hear me clearly right now. So the second thing is if you have trained security professionals in your team. Now, maybe you manage a team, in which case you also need to know all about security and ensure that you have enough people, adequate amount of human resources to who know about security, and you need to also have the right set of tools in your security operations center. Maybe if you're not a very big, large enterprise, you won't have a full-fledged security operations center. But the point is, you need to have people who know about security and people who know to use the right set of tools for security, right? Because today you have a lot of automated tools. You have a lot of automated tools for everything, right? From threat detection to vulnerability management and so on. But to extract complete value from these tools, you actually need to know how to use them. So it's sort of a combination of knowing what threats are there, knowing what are the tools that your enterprise needs, and most importantly, knowing how to use these tools, right? So these are the two things, which is a very good starting point. And after that, you need to know how to handle a security incident, right? Because you eventually, if you face a security incident, you need to have an efficient, accountable process to track the resolution of that security incident. And now this is something that is very important from a compliance point of view. Because if your enterprise gets breached, a compliance penalty isn't going to fine you simply because you got breached, but they're going to fine you if they found out that you didn't have proper processes in place to resolve a security incident. We'll come back to this in the next few slides, but I just wanted to give a quick idea as to what are the things you need to evaluate before actually getting into, say, purchasing the right set of tools. You need to know what are the cyber attacks prevalent in today's threat landscape. You need to have trained security professionals in your team. You need to have the right set of tools, which again, the trained security professionals need to know how to use. And you need to have an efficient process in place to handle a security incident. And all this is going to become even more important in the next 2 to 3 years. And you can see maybe by 2020 that security is going to be at the heart of your IT operations. Everything else will come secondary. security first, and then you look at all the other things for your internal IT. So with these questions, try to answer if you believe that your critical resources are truly secure, right? Do you know every single thing that is happening in your network right now? And do you know if any of the events that are happening could potentially cause a threat to your network security? So now that we have done a bit of an evaluation of our security posture, and you can all feel free to discuss with us on the live chat what are the systems that you have in place to tighten your security, and we can engage in a discussion on the chat as well. I also just wanted to make missed a couple of things. That one, we'll be sharing all these slides with you, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. We'll be sending you this entire slide deck in a couple of days, and also that at the end of the presentation we have a live chat session where you can get all your queries clarified. So just sit back and try to gain as much knowledge as possible. Right. So taking the first steps to network security. Now, a lot of people who are new to security ask me, what should my security strategy be? Right? And this is one of those terms that gets often misused in the industry. A lot of vendors talk about enterprise security strategy, but the truth is that each of you have a different security requirement, right? Because some of you might come from banks, some of you might come from small and medium sized businesses, some of you might come from healthcare, some of you might come from consulting. So each of you have different requirements, but broadly speaking, you have three things to look out for security, especially if you're just starting to build a security strategy. The first thing is to do a set of things that can reduce the chance of being hit by a cyber attack, right? So this could involve risk assessment, where you evaluate what are the critical resources in your network and what are the things you have in place to secure them. And you manage vulnerability, because vulnerabilities are what attackers exploit in order to carry out an attack. So if you can seal vulnerabilities, that itself can go a long way in stopping attacks from happening. Because I'm sure a lot of you heard about the WannaCry ransomware, and that exploited an SMB vulnerability in Windows. In fact, Microsoft had released a patch to fix that same vulnerability 2 months before the attack happened, but still you had hundreds of thousands of systems worldwide which did not have the latest security patch. So the first step is to reduce the chance of being hit with a cyber attack, which involves vulnerability management and risk assessment and those sort of things. And then you want to implement a set of best practices. You want to ensure that all your systems are up to date and running the latest software. Any security patches, all of them have been efficiently implemented. You want to have a proper process for backup and recovery, which is great. You want to ensure proper password management, especially of your privileged accounts. But despite doing the first 2 points, attacks can still happen. Because if everyone did the first 2 points correctly, you might think, okay, then there's no question of hearing about attacks. But we hear about attacks all the time. Despite doing a reasonable amount of vulnerability management and risk assessment and trying to implement best practices for security in your organization, still organizations are prone to attacks. So here is where you need a system for incident detection and response, right? You need a system to detect incidents and allow you to efficiently respond to them. So this is important even though you have vulnerability management and best practices in place. Those are sort of like the starting point for security, and you want to be on top of that as much as you can. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, attacks can still happen, which is where we need to look at incident detection and response. And that's what we're going to discuss on auditing, right? The idea of real-time auditing and being alerted for events that concern your security. So auditing, we see a lot of different terms being used in the industry. We hear auditing tools, log management tools, SIEM, security information and event management tools, or SIM tools. But really, let's not worry about textbook definitions and look up Wikipedia definitions of that sort. But let us think about what security auditing means to us and exactly what SIEM or SIM can do for you. Like, let's not look at the textbook definitions. Let's think about what SIM can help us with for network security. And that's why I give a definition that SIM answers vital security questions for you, right? These are questions that any security administrator would want to know the answer for. Questions like, is there any suspicious activity on my firewall? Has my IDS IPS system detected a threat? Is the traffic in my network secure from trusted sources? And any other question really apart from just limited to network devices. Maybe you want to know which critical files and folders were modified, or you want to know which Active Directory user accounts have been locked out and why have they been locked out. So, or maybe what are the errors on your web server? Any question really, any important security question can be answered for you with a SIM tool or an auditing tool. And how it's going to do that is it's going to do that with the logs, right? Because you know that logs are incredibly powerful. As administrators, you know that logs from your network devices, you've got routers, switches, firewalls, your IDS IPS systems, you know how powerful your log data is because every event that happens in your network gets recorded as a log. The logs contain information about every single event that happens in your network. So if you're able to understand or analyze the log data, you will be able to detect any suspicious activity or if anything bad is happening in your network. But of course, your log data from your routers and switches and firewalls, these are syslogs, of course, and syslogs can be massive in number, right? Because in a given day, you might be getting typically we call this events per seconds or EPS, and syslogs from your network devices could be like 1,000 or 10,000 EPS, meaning you have 10,000 events per second. So imagine how many logs or events get generated in a given day from your network devices. It's really a huge incomprehensible number, and if you try to manually read through every log message, you're going to get nowhere. You can have a team of even 10,000 people in your security team, and still you will not be able to detect anything anomalous. In fact, you'll mostly end up missing an important thing if you have to manually scan through log data. So what you need is a single console which is able to collect and consolidate log data from all your network devices and analyze them in real time to give you detailed audit reports and, more importantly, in my view, real-time alerts. I say alerts as the most important thing because as a security administrator, you want to be instantly notified when a security event of interest happens in your network. For example, maybe your IDS system flags an event and you need a solution that can collect and analyze the log data and throw up an alert for you when it detects something suspicious from the fields of the log message. And this needs to be done in real time. You need the mechanism of ignoring seemingly anomalous events in your network that aren't a concern for your security. So it is a must for your security operations team to have this single console that can analyze log data being generated across your network in real time and alert you for threats and security events that concern you. This is what a SIM tool or an auditing tool or log management tool, whatever you want to call it. I would prefer the term auditing tool in this context, especially as an entry level option. This is what an auditing tool can do for you to boost your network security, and that is why you need it. So basically, you can get three things out of auditing. First is that the auditing helps you get detailed reports to understand all the activity in your network and important events occurring in it. The second is that it allows you to get real-time alerts to detect threats when something suspicious happens. And the third is that in case your network gets breached, you have all the log data collected, so you can quickly backtrack the attack and conduct a thorough forensic analysis by searching through the collected logs using your auditing tool. This will help you find out exactly what happened in an event and get a complete picture of the attack. So this is hugely useful. I'm going to show you the next slide where we've summed up what we discussed on how auditing with a SIM tool can help you secure your network, right? So the first step is you need to configure what is known as an audit policy. You need to tell your network devices, be it your firewalls or your routers or switches or IDS, IPS, to generate logs for the specific events and send those logs to your centralized tool, which is your SIM tool or auditing tool. Your auditing tool now will collect all these logs, try to correlate these events to try and find out if any pattern of or chain of suspicious events is occurring in your network. It will then alert you for that. It will then, after alerting you, it will then archive the log data and then give you reports, right? So you collect the logs, you correlate the events, you get alerted in real time for suspicious events. You're also archiving all the logs so that you can report it for whatever internal auditing requirements or for your compliance auditors. So this in a brief is how an auditing tool works and how you can leverage one to boost your security. You collect log data from different devices, you try to correlate events, or rather the tool will try to correlate events for you, give you alerts in real time, and then also archive the log data in a secure location so that you can run reports to show your internal auditors as well as your compliance auditors as well. And when you get an alert, here is why you need to have an efficient process in place for managing the incident. So if you get an alert, you should be in a position where you know how to deal and respond to that particular incident. If you get a real-time alert, you should have integrated your tool with your help desk tool perhaps and get a ticket assigned to an administrator in real time as the alert gets generated. So as the alert gets triggered by your auditing tool, you can raise a ticket in your help desk tool to the assigned designated administrator so that you have an accountable process in place to track the resolution of the incident. So in short, you need to configure the device and tell that device for what events it needs to generate logs for, and then collect the logs from all your devices into a central location. So I'm sure you know by now the importance of network device auditing. So let us look at the kinds of things and events that we can audit and look to be alerted for. So the first is the example of auditing configuration changes made to your network, right? So now you know that your network devices work like clockwork based on the configurations that you have set. But if some unauthorized configuration changes are made, whether it was with malicious intent or accidentally by one of your admins, it could create a loophole in your network security, which could lead to dire consequences. Now, you as administrators, you know how powerful your privileged accounts are. And there's this quote from the Spider-Man movies that says, with great power comes great responsibility. So you need to be on top of all your administrative actions so that you know if any particular configuration change is creating a loophole to your network security. And these loopholes that get created can allow a hacker to carry out an attack and breach your network. So here with an auditing tool, you can track administrative logons to your network devices and look to be alerted for suspicious logons like logons during non-working hours. And you can do privileged user monitoring because admins are privileged users and they have, like I said, all the permissions and they have the power to make critical changes. So it is a must to track their activity and track all the configuration changes that they make to your network devices. And you should be in a position where anytime if something goes wrong, you have tracked all the important privileged user actions. You should have tracked all the commands that have been executed by your administrators and what is the configurations that they are changing, so that in case something goes wrong, you can file a report for your internal requirements as well as for your compliance auditors. So that's one example of tracking important configuration changes made to your routers. And this is going to be done, of course, by collecting logs from your routers and switches, analyzing them, and giving you audit reports through your tool. The next one is a little bit more to deal with a security threat, which is a use case for auditing of your firewalls. So in case your firewall is facing several denied connection, is denying several connections from the same IP address, it could mean that someone is trying to carry out an attack, right? If your firewall is guarding one of your, say, important financial servers, and someone is trying to breach it from the outside, but because you've configured the rule correctly, your firewall, of course, is going to block access to that particular financial server. However, if by chance someone on the inside, either by mistake or maliciously, made a firewall rule change and allowed the same IP address to access your firewall, to access your web server, then that could mean that someone has colluded from inside your organization with a hacker outside and is carrying out an attack. So if you have a pattern where, say, you have 100 denied connections followed by a firewall rule change, or following those 100 denied connections you have traffic being allowed, that is obviously suspicious anomalous activity for which you need to be alerted for, right? Because if you have a few denied connections by a firewall, it's just normal. But if you have several denied connections from the same IP address, and then mysteriously for some reason the same IP address is allowed traffic, then you know that you might be under attack. And it could have happened because someone made a firewall rule change to allow access to that IP address. So with an auditing tool, you can detect such a pattern. Maybe if there were 100 denied connections, you can get a real-time alert. Or if you have a correlation rule with 100 denied connections followed by allowed traffic, followed by the connection being allowed or the traffic being allowed, you can get a real-time alert for that. You can also get a real-time alert every time every time a rule is changed in your firewall, which is a critical network configuration change. So when you get the real-time alert, you can quickly go to your auditing tool, um, check the reports, check the search through the events, and confirm that it was someone who was denied connection by your firewall several times who got access. You can find out who it was that actually made the rule change and allowed that particular IP address to gain access. And since it's a real-time or near real-time notification, you can quickly take steps to prevent the attack from becoming anything too big. And you can also not only curb the attack, but you also have the full forensic evidence of exactly what happened. This means that you can take action and find out exactly who caused the attack. You can file a neat report that at this particular time the firewall denied connection, and then because of a particular rule change at this time, that IP address was allowed to access the financial server, and you can easily show an accountable process of how you resolve the incident in very quickly, and also that you have a neat report to show to your auditors. So this is just another simple use case that I wanted to give, because some of you might be new to security and auditing in general. So I just wanted to give a couple of basic examples of routers and firewall auditing so that you could understand exactly the power that you can leverage from an auditing tool. Now, at the start of the webinar, I had told you some ways that we spoke about a couple of attacks. We talked about the Equifax data breach and the ransomware attack. And obviously, you have an IDS system, which is an important fulcrum of your network security. And what it's going to do is typically it's going to monitor your network and look for suspicious, anomalous behavior. So with an auditing tool, you can try to correlate that activity on your IDS with the activity on across the rest of your network, like your routers and firewalls, and be alerted for threats that could actually pose a threat to your security. What this means is that without efficient analysis of logs, you may be getting too many alerts for things that don't really concern you. Whereas with a SIM tool or an auditing tool, you can tap into the power of your IDS IPS and be alerted for the right set of events, right? Now, because your SIM tool or your auditing tool will collect this log in real time and analyze it in real time. It will detect the threat or attack and trigger an alert for you. And here is where a very powerful feature of your SIM tool, which is threat intelligence, comes into the picture. Because yes, firewalls and IDS systems do help in detecting and curbing a lot of threats, but there are a lot of known malicious sources across the internet. And if any of these IP addresses are trying to interact with your network, your tool can correlate that particular IP address, which is known to be malicious, is trying to interact with your routers and switches and firewalls, and it can alert you in real time that there is malicious traffic trying to enter your network. This will help you to detect threats at an early stage and help you mitigate attacks. So in this way, you can enhance your threat detection capability by correlating log data from your other network devices along with the IDS IPS log data, along with threat intelligence or threat feeds. So you can quickly capture an attack pattern in real time and be alerted for that. And this will allow you to proactively mitigate threats to your network. So I'm just wrapping up the presentation part of it. So I just wanted to give a rough idea on network device auditing and how you can leverage an auditing tool like a SIM solution to boost your network security, right? In short, you collect log data, you try to the tool will correlate data for you and alert you for suspicious events that could pose a threat to your network security. You can also archive all these the collected log data so that in case you need, you can furnish an audit report for your internal auditors as well as for your compliance mandates. So the main takeaway is that remember, security is going to be a hugely important thing and the heart of your IT operations in the upcoming years. So it would help to start evaluating your security posture, finding out if you have the right set of tools, and an auditing tool like a SIM solution is a really great way to kickstart and boost your network security in your organization. So thank you so much for joining us. I've shared some of our contact details. The first email ID is my email ID. You can reach out to me anytime if you have any queries. I'm also giving you the support email ID of two of our products. We've got Event Log Analyzer, which is a network device auditing tool. And we've got Log 360, which is our comprehensive SIM tool, which brings in Event Log Analyzer's functionality along with an Active Directory auditing component. So if you're looking at a comprehensive auditing tool to track your network devices, your databases, web servers, Active Directory, Log 360 is the ideal solution for you. And you can contact us on any of these email IDs, and our product experts from our pre-sales team will help schedule a personalized demo for you. So thank you so much for joining us. We are here on the live chat to answer any of your questions, so we can continue to engage on that as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining us and have a nice day.